One of the most important skills that you need to learn in organizing your mind, in organizing your time, is learning how to get your priorities in the right order. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. Now, there's a great tendency when you're an entrepreneur to give equal weight to everything, equal weight to every task that you have to fulfill. And quite often, especially when you're just starting out, you find that you have a lot of different tasks to fulfill. You've got to do all sorts of things in your home, in your business, and so on. So you might have to do things like cooking, cleaning, looking after your family, home maintenance, all things that are going to take up your home life, transport, dad's taxi takes everybody where they want to go. In your work life, you may have to look after your websites. You're going to need to find new clients. You're going to have to create products or provide the services. You're going to have to handle correspondence, emails, phone calls, letters, that sort of thing. You're going to have to keep up with the accounts and paying the bills. And it can be very difficult to fit it all in. No wonder our caricature in the middle here looks so glum. So you have to accept when you're an entrepreneur, when you run your business, and even in your life as a whole, that you can't do everything. There's just 24 hours in a day, and you can't do everything that needs to be done. It's just simply not physically possible because, of course, the more things you do, the more things that you find to do. And if you give each of them equal weight, then you soon find yourself in a bit of a problem. So you have to learn to set your priorities. You can't give everything equal weight. And you have to accept that some tasks are more important than others. So what you have to do is you need to learn how to rank tasks in order of importance. And you need to rank them like this, really. First of all, top priority are the tasks that you must do, come what may, come whatever you must do, whatever this task is. And this could be something in your business life, like going out and getting some new clients. It could be something in your home life, like you must pay your mortgage, that sort of thing. And then there's the things that you should do. And these are the things that you should do, and you're going to try your darndest to, but you can't 100% guarantee that you're going to be able to do it because they don't have as high a priority as the things that you must do. And then there's the things that you could do, if there's time. Otherwise, it's no big deal. And then there's the stuff that you can't do. And I suppose this, along with what you must do, is one of the most important categories because you can't do everything. Now, exactly what your top priority is going to be is going to depend a lot on you, on your business, and your circumstances. So when it comes to deciding what sort of priority to give something, you need to ask yourself, if I don't do whatever today, what's the worst thing that can happen? Now, if the consequences are dire, then this task is going to fall into the must-do category. So, for example, if you're not going to pay the mortgage, then you're going to get kicked out of your house, then obviously that comes into the must-do category. If the consequences are inconvenient, then this task will fall into the should-do category. You should do it, you should try and do it, but if you don't, well, there'll be problems, but it won't be a really serious problem. And if the consequences are no big deal, then this task should fall into the could-do category or the can't-do category. And when you're deciding what's going to fall into the can't-do category, you need to learn how to say no without feeling guilty. Now, lots of people have a big hang-up about this, and I suppose it goes back to childhood where you're brought up to please people, so you say yes. And of course, it is easier to say yes to something than it is to say no to something because you don't want to hurt people's feelings and that sort of thing. But when you say yes to everything, you are really not doing yourself any favors because, as I said, you can't do everything. So you need to learn to say no without feeling guilty. And if you don't have the time to do something, then you don't have the time to do something. It's that simple. It's not about being selfish. Lots of people will lay on a guilt trip when you say, oh, no, I can't do this. Oh, really? Why not? Blah, 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 blah. But it's not that way at all. It's not about being selfish. Because when you say no to something, it means that you're able to say yes to something that's more important. So something that goes at a low priority and you say no to it, it means that you're saying yes to having the time to doing something that's more important, that's something that's in the must-do category or the should-do category. Now, there's a very good book on this subject called How to Say No Without Feeling Guilty by Patty Brightman and Connie Hatch, and you can buy it at Amazon.com and good bookstores. And it goes into this in a lot of detail about the psychology of how you say no without feeling guilty. But once you can do that, once you've got that skill, you should be able to get your priorities in order very easily. In this video, I want to talk about goal setting for high achievement, because you can't actually achieve anything until you know what it is that you want to achieve. And that achievement, the thing that you want to achieve, is often referred to as a goal. Now, how does one define a goal? Well, Wikipedia defines it like this. A goal is a desired result that a person or a system envisions, plans, and commits to achieve. A personal or organizational desired endpoint in some sort of assumed development. Many people endeavor to reach goals within a finite time by setting deadlines. It's roughly similar to purpose or aim, the anticipated result which guides reaction, or an end, which is an object, either a physical object or an abstract object that has intrinsic value. Now, I suppose the best metaphor for defining a goal is actually to think about a game like football, soccer, or hockey. Here, the actual object that you aim for is called a goal. And you know that the objective of the game is to get the ball or the puck in the back of the net. And then you have scored a goal. You have achieved scoring that point. You have achieved scoring that goal. And the way that these things are organized, the way that you have to work towards that goal, towards scoring that goal, towards getting yourself or a teammate in a position to score that goal, is a really useful metaphor for the way that you can set goals in life and in your business. Now, there are two different types of goals. There can be short-term goals and long-term goals. Now, short-term goals expect accomplishment in a short period of time, and this can be something like trying to get a bill paid in the next few days. And short-term goals can be standalone accomplishments, or they can be steps along the way to achieving a long-term goal. So that short-term goal of getting the bill paid in the next few days could be a standalone accomplishment if it's just a small bill, or it could be making a mortgage payment that's a step along the way to achieving a long-term goal of getting your house note paid off, that sort of thing. Now, long-term goals are also called an objective, and they can take many years or even a lifetime to achieve. So, for example, long-term goals may include things like gaining a professional qualification or purchasing a home outright. These are things that take a long time to do. And when it comes to setting goals, you want to stick to what's known as the SMART system. Now, what do I mean by SMART? It means that your goals must be specific. You must have a specific aim in mind when you're setting that goal. It must be measurable. You must be able to see whether your goal has been achieved or how close you are to achieving it. And it must be achievable. You must be able to do it yourself or be able to have the wherewithal to achieve this goal. The goal must be realistic. It's not some sort of pie-in-the-sky pipe dream. It's something that you stand a realistic prospect of actually being able to achieve. And it must be timely. There must be a time frame that you have in mind for when you want this goal to be accomplished. And if we go back to our sports analogy, if we go back to our soccer analogy, say, you know exactly what the goal is. The specific goal is to get the ball in the back of the net. It's measurable because you can look at the scoreboard and see how many goals you've scored. You can see how far the player is down the field, that sort of thing. It's certainly achievable because that's the whole object of the game. It's realistic, especially if the two teams are evenly ranked. And it's timely. You have a set time in which the match is going to be played. So that fits into the SMART analogy as well. Now, when you're setting your goals, you want to start with the result that you want to achieve, and you want to work backwards from that. So, to put it another way, you want to think about what you want to achieve. The how you're going to achieve it is going to come later, because once you've decided what it is you want, you can then work backwards and think, well, if I need to do this, then before that, I need to do that. In order to accomplish that, I need to do something else beforehand. And then you can work backwards to where you are now. And then you have a clear roadmap towards achieving your goals. So there you go, a crash course on goal setting for high achievement. If you want to organize something, if you want to remember it, then it's a good idea to write it down. And when I mean write it down, I mean actually physically put it down on paper using a pen or a pencil. Years ago, I used to work with this guy, and he used to carry a little notebook and a pencil around with him. And whenever you asked him something, or whenever he needed to remember something, or if you gave him something to do, he would immediately get out this notebook and he'd write it down. And I once said to him, "Why do you write everything down, Charlie?" And he said, "Well, it's because my pencil's got a better memory than I have." And you can't argue with that. But the thing is, when you write something down, you're more likely to remember it. So even though Charlie used to write everything down, he didn't often have to refer back to this notebook because it made it easier for him to remember it. And this is because the act of physically writing something down causes two separate parts of your brain to become involved in the process of remembering, making it less likely that you'll forget. I notice lots of people these days use electronic devices to take notes. You often see college students taking laptops or tablet computers into lectures. And there's all sorts of things you can get for your smartphone that makes it easier to simply tap out a note. But the thing is, it doesn't trigger the same part of your brain that writing something down does. It's hard for a layman to explain it really, but it just works better. In your mind, you're more likely to remember something if you've actually physically written it down on paper. It's just the way that your brain works. And so while electronic devices can be a lot more convenient, they don't often work as well. Now, when you're writing something down, probably the best thing to do is to carry around an old-fashioned notebook or a diary and a pen or pencil, and then you can make a note of things as and when. You can buy them online, and you can buy them lots of different places. Obviously, diaries you can generally get around the turn of the year, but notebooks are readily available from all sorts of places all year round. And you can get one that's small enough to fit inside your jacket pocket, or you can carry it in your purse or handbag or that sort of thing, and they don't take up a lot of space. And you can get it out and just write down your notes as and when. Now, my favorite organizational tool, particularly when I'm collaborating with others and we're working in the same office, is a wall planner. And as you can see, they are very cheap. This one here is £2.99, which is about $5 US. And if I zoom over here, you can see what it is. It's just basically a whole year's calendar spread out in little squares all the way across. And you have a regular calendar at the side as well that you can refer to. And you can use this. These are generally write-on, wipe-off type boards. And you can use these to block book events. So I know when I'm going to be making a video, I can block in a whole area where we're going to be away shooting, or if I'm going to be recording a video like this, I'll know that I won't want to schedule any meetings or anything else like that for this particular time. And I'm going to know when people's schedules are in conflict. I'm going to know when people are going to be away on holidays or vacations and that sort of thing. And it just means that you can plan a whole year ahead at a glance, and it's a very, very useful tool. And I certainly since I started using one several years ago, I really would find life very difficult without it. Another thing that you can do is just to write out an old-fashioned to-do list. A piece of paper and a pen, write to do, and then you number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many tasks you have to do. And then you can rank them in order of importance. And then when you've done them, you can simply scratch through them, and then you'll know that that task has been accomplished. And it's a very good way to keep organized because you'll know exactly what you have to do, what you've done, and what still needs doing. Another old-fashioned and very well-used tool to write things down on and to use it to organize your time and to organize your life are Post-it notes. Now, the humble Post-it note, well, it's been around a long time and it often gets overlooked, but it is actually very, very handy. You can keep a pad at your desk or by the phone or wherever you're going to be writing stuff down, and you can just simply write the stuff down, and then you can stick notes wherever you need to put them. So you can remind yourself to make a phone call by putting a Post-it note on the phone. You can remind yourself to pay a bill online by sticking a Post-it note on your computer monitor, that sort of thing. And if you're collaborating with other people, you can also use them on a notice board or on a pin board or just simply a spot on your office wall where you can organize these Post-it notes, and you can simply put the Post-it note up for people to read. And of course, Post-it notes come in different colors. There's not just the plain standard yellow anymore. You can get all sorts of different colored Post-it notes. And so you can color code your Post-it notes so different things can have different colors and there can be different meanings and so on. And you can use that as a really good way of getting organized. But the key here, of course, like we said at the beginning, is to make sure that you actually physically write it down. It doesn't matter if your handwriting isn't neat, just as long as you can read it and other people can read it too. One of the most important skills that you can learn in business and in life, really, is learning how to delegate. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. Now, when it comes to delegating, you can delegate to other people, you can delegate to processes, or you can delegate to both. And when it comes to deciding what you're going to delegate, you need to ask yourself, does this have to be done by me? Am I the only person who can do this task? Is this something that requires my own personal attention? Or can it be delegated to somebody else? Or can it be delegated to something else? Because after all, automated processes is a type of delegation. Now let's just take a look at this slide here, which is typical of the sort of things that someone who runs a home and a business will need to look out for. You have to do things like the cooking, cleaning, looking after the family, home maintenance, transport. You might have to drive your kids all over the place, looking after websites if you run an online business, finding new clients, creating products or providing services, dealing with correspondence, emails, letters, phone calls, that sort of thing. And of course, the bane of every business person's life, doing the books, paying the bills, dealing with the accounts, that sort of thing. And I'm sure there are many more tasks that, quite frankly, just simply don't have room to fit onto this slide. No wonder the caricature in the middle here is looking a bit glum. Well, let's look at how tasks on this slide could be delegated. First of all, delegate the cooking. You can always eat out, and you're delegating the cooking to the people in the restaurant. Then there's the cleaning. You can hire a cleaner to do that for you. You know, your time is valuable. If you're doing your cleaning, then you're charging yourself a great deal of money for something that actually has a very low value. When it comes to home maintenance, there's all sorts of maintenance contractors out there who can do things like giving the outside a lick of paint or cutting the grass and weeding the flower beds and that sort of thing. And they can be hired locally very easily. When it comes to transport, well, you can get an account with a taxi firm. Lots of cab companies will actually offer a discounted rate to their contract customers. So ask around, and then you can simply give everybody the taxi company's number and your account number, and then they can simply book a cab to get around, freeing you up to do other things. You can see our character is starting to brighten up a bit. Now, when it comes to work, of course, looking after websites is certainly something that you should delegate to a web design company, because if you have an amateurish looking website, then you're going to give the impression that you're giving an amateurish service or you're providing an amateurish product. So outsourcing, looking after your website to a web design company is a good move for all sorts of reasons. Then there's creating products or providing services. Now that can be outsourced, especially if you're making a digital product or you're providing a service online. And there are lots of websites out there like freelancer.com or Upwork that can put you in touch with talented freelancers who can do the job for you. For short jobs, small jobs, you can usually use fiverr.com. Now, when it comes to correspondence, well, replying to emails can be delegated to an autoresponder. And that's probably the best example of actually delegating to a thing rather than to a person. An autoresponder company like Aweber or MailChimp or someone like that will set you up an account, and you can simply send out emails on schedule, so you don't have to worry about emailing your newsletter to every client individually. And for other things like answering the mail, answering the phone, that sort of thing, you can always hire a virtual assistant or VA. And again, you can look on sites like freelancer.com or Upwork and so on. When it comes to doing the accounts, paying the bills, that sort of thing, well, you should outsource that to your accountant because they have the necessary skills and the time that they can devote to it. And you can also outsource it to bookkeeping software as well. So you can keep track of everything. You don't have to sort of do your figuring out on the back of an envelope. You can actually enter your details in. And some of the bookkeeping packages that are out there now are very advanced. You can break down spending and you can break down incomes. You can see exactly where your money's coming from and exactly where your money's going to. And so you can concentrate on the areas that are most profitable. So you see, with all this stuff now delegated, that leaves you to do the two most important things, which is looking after your family and finding new clients. And these are things that have to be done by you. You really can't outsource or delegate those. And as you can see, our caricature in the middle here is now looking very happy indeed without having quite so much to occupy its mind. Now, exactly what or how much you delegate is going to be up to you, really. And a lot of it's going to depend upon what you can afford, because obviously if you're not doing it, you're having to pay someone or something to do it for you, and what you're comfortable with. You know, some people find that they really do need to be in control of lots of things involving their business and their life. Other people are more comfortable with letting other people do it. And there is no right or wrong to that. It just depends whichever you're comfortable with. So there you go. This is how you can get organized and delegate and have more time to do the things that really matter. In this video, I want to give you some tips for getting rid of clutter. Now, clutter slows you down because time spent hunting for an item, well, it's time wasted. And a tidy environment leads to a tidy mind. And this was brought home to me when I had my first office job. My boss used to make sure that everything was stacked neatly. You weren't allowed to have papers strewn all over the place. You had to stack them neatly. You had to put something back in the filing cabinet as soon as you'd finished using it. And you had to make sure that your desk was tidy before you went home, that all your pens and pencils were all stacked away and that everything was put away in drawers and so on. And she used to say, tidy desk, tidy mind. And I suppose she had a point. And the first step that you can take to getting rid of clutter is to get proper storage, a proper place to keep everything where you can put it back when you finish using it and you're going to know where it is and other people are going to know where it is. I suppose the simplest type of storage is actually shelving. Shelves don't cost a lot of money to buy. You can put them up quite easily. You can get shelving units that are freestanding if you're in rented accommodation or rented office or rented home and the landlord doesn't want you drilling holes in the wall. You can buy self-assembly shelf units. They come flat packed and you can simply put them up in an afternoon. And they're not really all that difficult. And once you've got things on shelves, then it's very easy to find where they are because you can just see where they are by looking. So instead of having to sort through a pile of books to find a particular one, for example, you can simply look where it is on the shelf. And of course, you can do like the people who own these shelves have done, which is label up the shelves alphabetically so you can find a particular item, a particular book in this case. And that's the easiest way of getting everything organized and storing things, is simply get them on shelves, get them off the floor and out of a pile and actually up onto the wall where it's very easy to find. Another thing that you can have is proper filing. You can have a filing cabinet, and that can contain suspension files, or and particularly if you're working from home, because, let's face it, a filing cabinet doesn't particularly go with home decor. You could have lever arch files or box files that you can put on your shelf, and you can label them up, you can color code them, you can do all sorts of things with them, and you can make them very easy to find what it is that you're looking for, so you don't have to go hunting for it. So again, you don't have a pile of papers, you can just simply file them away in your files, and then you can refer to them as and when necessary. And you should devise a filing system that works for you. I mean, there is no set way that's the best. It's whichever works for you is the best system that you can have. Now, you can file things alphabetically. I suppose that's the most straightforward method of filing something. You can file it by the name of the author if it's a book, by the name of the person who's written the article if it's an article, by the name of the employee, whichever. Just work out your own system, whichever works for you, like I said. Or you can file things by date, and this is often how things get filed in filing cabinets, and you can have it either as the most recent item towards the front of the filing cabinet drawer, and as things age they get pushed towards the back, or you can do it the other way around. You can make sure that you have the oldest at the front and new stuff goes in at the back, but either method is just as good if it works for you. You can file things by client. You could perhaps have a different color file folder for each different client, so you can see exactly which client's work you're working on just by simply pulling the different colored file box off the shelf. Or you can file things by job, and if you give a job number, then quite often that can tie in with your accounts software, so you can cross-reference. Or you can file things by location. So, for example, if you're a landscape gardener and you work on different people's gardens, then you might want to file things by city or by street or by neighborhood. But whichever system you devise and whichever system you decide to use, you must stick to it. Don't decide, yes, I'm going to file everything away now, and you file it all away, and then you go back to your old habits of just simply chucking everything into a pile, because that's going to become clutter before you know it, and then the whole object of the exercise is lost. So to get around that and to stop that from happening, you want to establish a filing routine. So a good thing to do is to file papers as soon as you've finished using them, just like my old boss used to make me do. As soon as you finished looking at something, it went back in the file. You should also file bills in a folder when they arrive, and then you can transfer them to another file after they've been paid. So you can tell immediately which bills have been paid and when, and you can also see which bills need to be paid. And when you take something from a file, you must remember to put it back. Otherwise, as I was just saying, it defeats the whole object of it. If you take something out of the file and then just simply stick it in a pile on the side of your desk, well, then there's not a lot of point in having a filing system, is there? You do have to stick with it. Something else is you want to get rid of stuff that you don't use anymore. So that old laptop that you took out of service when you got your new laptop and you thought, well, I'll keep it as a backup machine and who knows, I might get round to converting it to run on Linux and then that'll give me something else to do when I'm not very busy. Well, let's face it, it's still there, isn't it, at the bottom of the pile of newspapers and magazines in the corner of your office. So you're never going to use it. And if your current laptop breaks, well, you're probably going to buy a new one now anyway. So chuck it out and free up the space and get rid of the clutter. And as a general rule, if you haven't used it for a couple of years, chances are you're never going to use it again, whatever it is, so chuck it out. And when you throw the stuff out, when you clear the decks, when you get it all filed away, all of a sudden you'll find the clutter has gone. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips for organizing your computer, because the more organized your computer is, the more efficiently you're going to be able to work. And one thing that you can do to get your computer organized is to clear your desktop of unused icons, because if you've got to hunt around on your desktop to find something, then it's going to be a lot of wasted time. And you might click on the wrong icon and you open the wrong program, and you've got to shut it down again, and it's all disorganized. So getting rid of icons that you haven't used for a long time is a nice way to really speed up your work. Now, how do you do this in Windows? Well, years ago, when Windows XP was current, there used to be a neat little wizard that used to run every so often and would take note of when you last clicked on an icon, and then you could run this and it would clear it away to a folder called unused icons or something similar. But unfortunately, they did away with that with the Windows Vista upgrade. So now you have to do it manually, but it's not really a big deal. What you have to do is right click on the desktop to create a new folder, and you can call it unused desktop icons or something similar. And then just simply drag the icon to this new folder. And when you do need to refer back to that particular program, you can go to the unused desktop icons folder and use it. But if it's one that you don't use very often, chances are that you'll have little cause to do that. And then all you have left on your desktop are the icons for programs that you use regularly. On a Mac, you can remove the icons manually to a separate folder, like on Windows. Or if you're running a Mac with OS X, you open Finder, click Preferences, select the General tab, and then uncheck the checkboxes for items that you want to hide. And then next time you go to your desktop, you'll find that they're all gone. One thing that makes email much simpler and easier to read is to filter it down so that you have different folders for different types of email. And this does two things. First of all, it means you haven't got to wade through all the junk in your inbox to find the really important messages. And secondly, you can find when someone has sent you an important message or someone who is important has sent you a message. I'm going to use Mozilla Thunderbird for this demonstration. And I like Mozilla Thunderbird for several reasons. First of all, because it enables me to run filters very easily. And second of all, because I can use multiple email accounts within the same client. So it does give me a lot of flexibility. Now, to run a filter, let's just come to my inbox here. You can see I've got lots of different messages here going right the way back. And if I wanted to find a particular message from a particular sender, then it would be a lot of hassle to have to go through it one at a time. So to create a message filter, I'm going to come here to Inbox, and then on my Windows computer, I'm going to right click and have New Folder. Now let's say that I want to filter all my messages from the Warrior Forum into this separate folder. I could call it Warrior Forum. And I'm going to have it as a subfolder of Inbox, but you can also have it as a subfolder of local folders or something like that, and click on Create Folder. You can see we now have this new subfolder, Warrior Forum. Now there are several ways that you can actually create the filters themselves. I'm going to show you the easiest way, and that's to come to a message from the sender that you want to create the filter from. Come down to where it's got their from, right click on Windows, and then come to here where it says Create Filter From, and select that. You give the filter a name. I'm going to call it Warrior Forum. I like to keep the filter names the same as the subfolders that they're going to go into. And then I can say when I want to apply the filter. I can apply it manually, and I can apply it when new mail comes in. And you can have it either before the junk classification or after. I'm going to leave it at the default settings for this demonstration. You can also select the checkbox for archiving or after sending. And then you can set the conditions that you want this filter to run under. And you can have it to match all of one or more conditions, any of them, or all messages. And you can set it to filter from the from, which is obviously what we're going to do with this filter. Or you can filter it by subject, or you can filter it by date or priority, or a whole bunch of other stuff here. And then you can have it match exactly, or you can have it if it happens to contain certain keywords or a certain email address. And this is useful if you're going to be getting emails from different people within the same organization. You can simply have it contain the bit after the @ in the email address. I'm going to leave it at the default settings for this demonstration, but you can see the other settings here as well, like you can filter it if it's in your address book or if it isn't in your address book and that sort of thing. And then you can move the message to a different folder, and we've got the inbox, and you can see we've got Warrior Forum, so I'm going to select that and then click OK. There you go. Now you've got all the filters here, and you can see that they're enabled, and you can add a new filter from this dialog. You can edit it, you can delete it. When you have more than one filter, you can select the order that they're run in. So that's that. So I'm going to select that, and you can choose the folder that I'm going to run it on, which is going to be Inbox. And now I can run it now, like that. And you can see, if you look up here, it's moved all of the email messages that I've got from the Warrior Forum into this particular folder. So we can now close this. So there's nothing here at all. But if I go here, you can see we've got all the different messages that I've got from the Warrior Forum. So now when I get a message from the Warrior Forum, it's going to be filtered out, and I'll know immediately when I've got a new message from the Warrior Forum. I won't have to go and look for it in my inbox. And you can apply a similar technique to organizing bookmarks in your internet browser, because again, it makes finding sites that you want to revisit that much quicker. I'm going to use Google Chrome for this demonstration, although the process is similar for other web browsers. Now in Chrome, what you do is come up here to the Customize icon and click on it. And then we come over here to Bookmarks. And you can see I've got a few bookmarks already set up here, but because this is for demonstration purposes, there aren't all that many. But if I were to use this on a regular basis, you'll probably find lots and lots of different bookmarks here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to Bookmark Manager and click on that. And then come here to Folders and click on Add Folders. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all my internet marketing bookmarks into one new folder. So we call this Internet Marketing. And that's done. So I can come back here to where it says Bookmarks Bar. And then what I can do is just simply drag all of these across into my new folder, like that. I can do it like that. And now, when I go to my bookmarks, you come here, bookmarks, you can see it's got internet marketing there, and then I can come down and I've got them all organized. So I don't need to wade through lots and lots of different bookmarks and scroll down to find different bookmarks. I can just simply come to it very, very easily and very straightforward, and that saves me a ton of time. So there you go, just a few ways that you can organize your computer. In this video, I want to give you some tips for organizing your travel. Because if you can organize your travel so that it's more efficient, you're going to save time, you're going to save fuel, and thereby save money as well. And the first thing to do when organizing your travel is to use a map with your sat-nav or GPS. Now, sat-navs are great, especially if you're driving in a strange city, we've not been there before, and you don't know your way around. You don't have to do what we used to do years ago, which was have to keep the map balanced on your knee while you're driving around and trying to read the road signs and trying to make sure you get off at the right exit and make the right turning. And if you find yourself with an unexpected one-way street, then that can throw you completely out of whack and you can get completely lost. But with a sat-nav, of course, it can direct you around and get you to your destination very easily. But the only downside to a sat-nav is that they tend to work out the way that they think you ought to go. And that can be via the motorway or highway or expressway, or it can be a more direct route, which might not include places that you want to go, especially if you've got multiple things to do. So what I like to do is work with a map alongside the sat-nav. So when I'm planning the route that I want to take, the route that I think's the best one, not the route that the sat-nav thinks is the best one, I'll often have several destinations and then work from one to the other, sort of put my first destination into the sat-nav from one that I've worked out from the map, and then the second one, and then the third one, and so on. And that way I can get the best of both worlds. I can plan the route that I want to take, and I can have my sat-nav guide me there. And when you do this, when you work with the map and sat-nav together and have multiple destinations, then you can get more from each journey, and that is more efficient. So, for example, you could do the shopping after you've dropped the kids off at school, instead of dropping the kids off at school, going home, getting your shopping list, going back to the supermarket. You can do it in one trip. Or you could collect your dry cleaning on your way home from work, and if that means you have to take a slight detour, or if you use public transport and you have to get off the subway a station earlier, well, then do that, because it's still more efficient than making a separate journey just to get your dry cleaning. And you can also group errands together. So if you're going to a particular area, then you can make sure that you're going to do all of the jobs that you need to do in that particular district all at the same time. And that might mean bringing some forward or putting some off till later, because you know that you're going to be in that particular area at that time and you can do everything at the same time. Or you can group them together by compass points. So everything that's to the north of your home or the north of your office, you can do that on one day, or you can do all the south ones the next day, east and west and so on. And that way you don't have to keep dashing backwards and forwards. You can concentrate on getting things done in a much more organized manner. And of course, when you do it this way, It's more time efficient because you're not wasting time going to and fro. You can actually work things out in the same order and do things one after another. And of course, as I was saying earlier, it's more economical because you don't use up as much fuel, or you don't have to buy a separate ticket for a different trip every single time. So there you go, just a couple of tips for organizing your travel. In this video, I want to give you some tips for organizing your grocery shopping. And one of the simplest things that you can do is to just keep a pad in the kitchen and jot down when things run out. After all, you know what stuff you buy on a regular basis, so you can add those to the list when needed. So when it comes time to do your grocery shopping, you don't have to rummage around in cupboards or in the refrigerator or wherever to see what you've got and what you haven't got, because as soon as you start to run out of something, you simply write it down at that time. And something else that you can do when it comes to actually going out to the store is to organize your list by where things are in the store. So after you've written everything down as and when you've decided that you need it, you can then rewrite it in the order that you're going to come to it. Now, I know supermarkets don't like people doing this, and they do tend to move things around from time to time so that you can't do this. But let's face it, a lot of the things that you're going to buy are going to be in the same places. After all, the bakery is going to be in the same place, and the pharmacy is going to be in the same place, and the meat counter is going to be in the same place, and the frozen foods are going to be in the same place, because they can't really move these fixtures around on a whim. It's a major operation. Whereas they might decide to move the tinned carrots to where the jars of olives used to be, and you then have to go and hunt around if you want carrots. But for the most part, you're going to find that generally the sort of stuff that they have in the supermarket stays the same. So you can then write it out in the order that you're going to come to it, and that's going to save you a lot of time. And also, you're not going to get distracted and spend more money on things that you don't really want. And of course, perhaps the most efficient type of grocery shopping is the sort of grocery shopping that you can do online. Now, apologies to any of the ladies who are watching this video, because I know that women often see shopping as a sort of a social occasion. But like most guys, I absolutely loathe shopping. And the sort of shopping that I loathe the most is grocery shopping. Quite frankly, I can't think of anything that's a bigger waste of time than trudging around the supermarket putting stuff into the shopping cart. So for a long time, I've been doing my grocery shopping online. And this is the shopping page for Tesco, which is a big supermarket here in the UK. But I'm sure lots of other supermarkets all around the world have something similar. And the great thing about doing my grocery shopping online is it's very, very quick and very convenient. So I can just simply go through and click the add to cart button to simply do my virtual supermarket shop. And you can see it lists the favorites, or the things that I buy on a regular basis in here. It's all listed. And also I can go through and sort things out by department, by previous orders, by last orders, the things that I usually buy. I can also upload a shopping list and it'll work it all through. And they charge a delivery charge, but that's great too, because it means I can have the shopping sent to my home at a time that's convenient for me to receive it. Or you can have a click and collect service on this particular site anyway, which means that you can have them do your shopping for you. You can stop off at the supermarket and pick it up at a time that's convenient for you. So it is well worth doing it. Like I say, they do have a charge to do all this, but I believe it's money to be well spent. And it really does help me organize my shopping and save a whole heap of time. So there you go, just a few ways to organize your shopping. In this video, I want to tell you about some smartphone apps that you can get to help keep you organized. And the first one is Cozy or Cozy. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. But it's an app that's linked to the cloud. And this is what the interface looks like. And you can see that it is two purposes here. It's a calendar that also breaks things down by time. And you can also color code things. So if you're collaborating with different people, each person can have a different color code, and you can scan it and see exactly when your color code shows up in the listings. And it's great for collaborations. If you're, say, a family and you have a hard time finding things to, coordinating when you're going to do stuff, then this can come in very handy. But it also can come in very handy at work, particularly if you have lots of people who are out in the field all the time, who might not come into the office for meetings and that sort of thing. You can use it to set schedules and so on. And you can go through and enter this in, and other people can log in and read it on their smartphones. You can also access it on a laptop, although I think you do have to have a Mac laptop in order to access this particular app. And you can find out more about the app, and you can sign up for the service here at cozy.com. A few other apps that I'll show you here. First one is Day One, which you can find out more about at dayoneapp.com. And it's basically an online journal that you can set up via your smartphone. You can also do it if you have a Mac or an iPad. And it basically enables you to enter your thoughts and memories and have them synced back into the cloud. So it's sort of a bit like a blog, but just for your own personal use. You can also download it from the Mac App Store and the App Store as well. Another very good one is Wunderlist, or Wunderlist if you're German, which you can find out more about at wunderlist.com. And there are pro and business versions as well as the free version. And what it basically does is it enables you to create to-do lists via your smartphone or tablet. If I scroll down a bit further, you can see here, it gives you an idea of the sort of things that you can do, sort of things you can enter into it. It can give you reminders so that you don't forget things. You can collaborate, you can share the lists with other people. As it says here, it's available for free on the iPhone, iPad, Mac, Android, Windows, Kindle Fire, and on the web. And you can download it here. A few more illustrations of it. And as you can see here, you can share lists, you can make notes, you can print your to-do lists out, you can turn emails into actions by forwarding them, you can set dates and so on. And it is actually very highly featured, and you can get quite a lot of use out of it. It can really be a very good organizer type app. Then there's Hello Wallet, and this is a financial app that helps you keep track of your finances. It's set up for people who have a job, but it can be used for either your home or your business. And if I scroll down here, you can see they have a video on the site that explains it in some detail. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but you can see it tells you all sorts of things that you can do with it. You can say exactly how much you spend on things like your mortgage or entertainment, and it breaks everything down. So it allows you to keep track of exactly what you're spending and what you're spending things on. And finally, there's Seconds Pro. Now, this is an interval timer to help keep track of training, workouts, and that sort of thing. And you can, if I scroll down, you can see here, doing things like keep track of how many push-ups you're doing. You can work out high and low intensity training, and it's a nice, clear display. And it really, means that you don't have to have a stopwatch and count push-ups and that sort of thing. So there you go, just a few apps that can help you keep organized via your smartphone. In this video, I want to tell you about some web apps that you can use to help get organized. And the first one is Google Calendar, which you can find out more about at calendar.google.com. And it's free to use. You simply sign in with your Google account, and if you have a Gmail account, then you'll automatically be signed up. And it's a pretty basic online calendar, appointment calendar and that sort of thing, which sometimes is really all you want, because you can keep track of upcoming events, you can keep track of appointments, reservations, that sort of thing, and you can do it all online via Google, so you can access it from any device that's capable of accessing Google. And you can see you've got all the details here. You've got a small calendar off to the side. You can organize it by the day, by the week, by the month. You can have it 4 days ahead. You have an agenda that you can also set, and this one just shows all the public holidays that are coming up. And you can also share your calendars with other people if they have a Google account as well. So it can be quite versatile, and sometimes you just need something really simple. The next one is Basecamp, which you can find out about at basecamp.com. Now, I use Basecamp quite a lot, and it is a really good app for people who collaborate with others online. So if you're putting together a project with different people in different countries and different time zones, then it just means that you can keep track of everything all in one place. You can post the to-dos, you can get updates, you can have people post messages on the Basecamp software itself so that you can log in to read them. You haven't got to keep sending emails out to lots of different people. You haven't got to coordinate things yourself. It handles it all for you. And it really is a nice piece of kit. It's not free, but your first project is free on Basecamp. After that, you do have to pay a subscription, but it's very well worth it. And as I said, you can find out more here at basecamp.com. Then there's Trello, and Trello is a bit like Pinterest if you're familiar with that software. And what you do is you put together these cards and then you post them on a virtual notice board. And so you can work collaboratively with other people. You put the stuff on a card and you post it on here, and then people can come to this online bulletin board and they can read what's posted there, they can add new stuff to it and so on. And again, if you are collaborating with other people in different countries, different time zones, then it just gives you a sort of a central place to store all the information and have everybody be able to access it at their convenience. Then there's Inex, which is a financial online app. And this allows you to do things like budget planning, debt management, goal achievement. You scroll down here a bit. And you can work out exactly what you're spending your money on and how much you're spending. It handles multiple currencies. You can have graphs to show where the money's going and where it's coming from. It's also got a recurring events calendar, so you know when things are coming up that you're going to need to spend money on, or when you're going to get a payment in if it's on a recurring basis and that sort of thing. And it does have a lot of capabilities, and it can be very, very good tool to help you get organized and organize finances. And you can find out more here at inexfinance.com. And finally, there's Google Keep. Now, Google Keep is, again, a bit like Trello and a bit like Pinterest, insofar as you can simply post notes on a virtual bulletin board, and you can share them with anyone who has an account with Google. You can also share them with people on Google Plus and on Facebook. You can tweet about it on Twitter, and it's good for doing things like to-do lists and writing down notes that you want to share with people and that sort of thing. And it's all free. And you can find out more about it at google.com/keep. So there you go, just a few web apps that can help you to be more organized.